Welcome everybody to the URUR. I am Jose, your host again, and here with me is Tony.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing good.
Great. You ready to talk about this?
I'm definitely ready. Definitely ready to do this.
Oh man, so this is another episode where we talk about the DC universe, movie cinematic universe.
Yes. Well, you'll probably hear me say this a lot, but I'm gonna be like multiverse of DC.
Right. So we're gonna talk about the Dawn of Justice movie. A lot of leaks are out.
Yes, the trailer is wow.
Spectacular.
Yes, I was at a loss for words.
So we have a lot to talk about Suicide Squad as well. A lot of leaked photos, Jared Leto and Harley Quinn.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a lot about that. And we're talking about Dawn of Justice and what we think about the movie and what may happen, what may not.
Yeah, what may, yeah, there you go.
So you said that you've been watching the Dark Knight, the animated movie?
Yes, just actually this past weekend I did go ahead and purchase the animated series of The Dark Knight, which is a interpretation of Frank Miller's the comic A Dark Knight Returns. Really good movie.
Yes, I own part 1 and part 2 as well. And iTunes, you said it had it all under one, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could purchase them separately, but they also have the deluxe package, which comes with both.
Cool. So it's all like one long.
Yeah. There's no interruption. It's just straight through.
Crazy.
2 hours. I actually spent 6 hours. I had to rewatch it twice, 3 times. I watched it 3 times.
Cool. So when we go through these things, you'll bring up a lot of elements. That might be in there.
Yeah. There's. Obviously you've seen it, but there's a lot of imagery in the animated series with the trailer of Batman v Superman.
Right. So they're definitely pulling like with the bat suit.
Yes,
things
definitely.
like that.
But I mean, it's to be expected. They do have Frank Miller on the movie, assisting.
Oh, cool.
There, so yeah.
Visually, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Cool. Well, let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about was the Joker pictures that were leaked. Actually, yes. We'll talk about the car.
The Joker car.
Man.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm really want to know more about what the Joker, because I mean, if you look at that car, it's a very expensive, sporty, rich, snotty.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
He looks like. This Joker looks like he's definitely acknowledging society, and I don't know if he's playing with it, but he's definitely rolling way different.
Than Jack Nicholson, the other Jokers. Heath Ledger, great,
Yeah. Heath Ledger's performance was like an anarchist, full out. But this guy's like,
it's a different take, and it's pretty nice. It's fresh, it's new. It's something,
it's different, definitely.
It's different, yeah.
It's like he's going to the club. That's the way I see it, right?
Definitely.
With the neon lights.
I kind of want to hang out with this Joker for some reason.
Right, exactly.
It feels like, if I were to go out with him, it'd be a fun night. Time. Yeah, it'd be a fun night.
A fun, crazy night.
Crazy night, yes.
The thing that I was more critical about the Joker with these pictures was his grill. I was really hating on his grill.
Yes. I also had, when the first pictures were leaked, I had a really big problem with his tattoos.
Right.
Especially the damage range on his forehead. Like that one.
Like why?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like
we get
why?
it. We get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't overdo it.
Yes, don't overdo it. Now going back on the grill, the one thing that one of my friends did mention was that there's 2 things that can be going on with the grill. One thing would be that Batman might be a more grittier, crazier Batman, where he pretty much kicked his teeth in, and the Joker's kind of wants to own that, So he has that grill. So looking back at it, it does look like his teeth have been broken out.
Yeah.
And he made this grill just to kind of, because of that.
Right.
So I like that aspect of it. I think it's pretty cool,
I would love to see that happen if they show it in the movie, like to actually show, how he if it is true that his teeth were knocked out, like how that happened, or I would like to get more of an in-depth, I guess, origin and yeah.
We'll get more into that
later.
all these little different hypotheticals.
Yes.
But yeah, the Joker, his car is a bit classy. He has a really nice suit, hair slicked back. I'm interested. It's different take, but it's definitely different than Heath Ledger's performance.
Yeah, big time. And I'm sorry. As far as the tattoos, what were your take on the what was your take on the tattoos?
I'll elaborate a little bit more on the tattoos later on because there's another point I want to make. But just to give you a little idea, at the very first time, that I saw it, I was really turned off by it.
Yeah.
Because you see the grill, you see the tattoos, you automatically think, oh, maybe they're trying to appeal to a certain demographic or something. I don't know, but they want to make this guy cool and hip, and what better way to do is add tattoos in the grill or something.
Yeah,
that's the way it felt. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of saw these videos and read reviews. Like, there's
the more research you do on it, it just becomes even more interesting with all these. Yeah, I really can't wait to get into actually dive into this conversation.
Right, because it's definitely a different take, and I think it has to do with this DC universe that they're trying to establish. They're establishing a different way what am I trying to say? This DC universe is trying to be more realistic.
Yes, definitely.
So this
compared to a lot of the other superhero movies that are out there.
Right, exactly. Christopher Nolan movies, I think that they did a great job at it. Kind of think that now with this inclusion of Batman in this universe, I think they're trying to take it a little step further maybe, and they're trying to reinvent some things.
Christopher Nolan definitely opened the door for DC in movies, because DC has lacked over the years on their superhero movies. Marvel was definitely kicking their ass in that aspect, but
right. The good thing that DC has been doing is TV. The animation is fantastic.
They've got a lot of miniseries as well. Which is pretty awesome.
You guys, if you haven't checked any of these animations, you guys need to go check it out. But that's another podcast.
Yeah.
Back to the Joker and Harley Quinn. The one thing that when I saw these pictures, I kind of felt like they definitely have a different dynamic that they versus the animated cartoons. And the reason I say I compare them to the animated ones is because Harley Quinn was invented on the animated series.
Right.
So in the series, she was more of the Joker's lackey. She was kind of like an apprentice, if you could say, of sorts. And here in the movie, I kind of see that it's more of a love interest. And they're just pictures, of course, but they appear more evenly matched. You don't get a sense that Joker's taking her under his wing. You get a Joker in a way that's a bit damaged, and he has this crazy relationship. And I don't know if they're gonna bring in issues when it comes with relationships with physical spousal abuse, things like that. That's gonna play a part, because that's the way that, just by looking at these pictures, I kind of feel that that's something that they're going to explore, since they're trying to be more grittier.
Yeah. And I want to say, in one of the pictures, the leaked photos of them on set, there was a scene where it looks like the Joker, was about to or just finish, slapping Harley, So yeah, I really do think they're going to bring like that violence into it.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it, it's so different from the comics. It's so different than what we saw in animated. Obviously, it would be different.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Animated is more, towards kids, leans more towards, kids. Although I still do watch, as I stated earlier.
Oh, man. I love the animated series.
Version.
We'll have to do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
But, with the movie, at first, I was kind of, this is my reaction. I guess this is just because I'm a little fanboy. But I'm like, no, you're messing things up. You know, you're taking Harley Quinn, you're making her become someone completely different. And now thinking about it, 'cause it took me a couple of days to kind of think about what they're doing and where they're going with it. I really like the idea that they're taking it and they're exploring it. What they're pretty much saying is, okay, if the Joker lived in today's world and he was maniacal and he was this insane man and he had this woman, we all know that he turned her into Harley Quinn. But what developed this relationship, one? And two, how did it happen to where the Joker would end up making her crazy? Like, they wanted to explore that process.
Yeah.
And if we're going to see that, I feel that we're going to see that in Suicide Squad. I feel that that's a very interesting take. Like, they're reverse engineering everything. You know, they're like, okay, how did they get to this point?
Yeah, because even in the comics, or not the comics, but the animated series, Harley Quinn started off as a Joker psychiatrist, you know, and he got into her mind, you know.
Right, got into her head,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden went kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
So
She
it's
went
very
head over heels.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So I'm very excited to see Suicide Squad. I know it's going to be like a giant origin story, which it's good because there's a lot of characters that even myself, I'm not completely aware of where they came from.
Right.
I know they come from the comics, and also the takes in the movies is obviously going to be different. You know,
Right.
especially with Deadshot in
His
this
origin.
movie. Yeah, because I mean, Will Smith, I do see him playing a sort of anti-hero, but I don't see him playing like an outright bad guy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Deadshot's character is, you know, more of, an anti-hero, I guess you would say.
Yeah, so I'm interested in see what they're going to do with it. I'm really excited about Suicide Squad, so we'll see what they do with that. Now, moving on to Superman versus Batman.
Oh, boy.
Batman versus
Oh,
Superman.
boy.
Dawn of Justice.
Superman.
Yeah.
That's just really funny on the title. I wonder why they decided on, you know, V rather than versus Batman v Superman.
I don't know. Maybe the S. I don't know. I'm thinking too much into it.
Good point. Good point.
So this is something you and I have talked about, the whole meta-human thing going on. What would happen if this godlike creature would appear in our world? I think that's the number one question that they're rolling with, right?
Yeah.
And yes, that is you crackling on pretzels and peanut butter. If you guys haven't tried pretzels and peanut butter, guys, you haven't lived.
Yeah. Go check out HEB.
Go check out the Heb.
Yep, HEB.
So, yeah, the metahuman thing is very interesting. This is something else that I'm very excited about, is that I think the reason that DC's taking this approach is they're asking a lot of questions that we secretly answer after watching like an Avengers movie. Is like, okay, so how are they going to rebuild that city? Who's going to be held accountable? Like, we don't see any of that.
They don't talk about it. They don't show it.
Right. So DC's doing the opposite. DC is saying, okay, especially because it starts with this crazy. Well, this movie's going to start with this crazy fight with Superman and General Zod, and they just plummet.
They destroy Metropolis.
So I think, they're starting from that point, and they're questioning, like, okay, if that was to happen, how are they going to rebuild? You know, who's going to be held accountable? What's going to happen? And a lot of these people are taking Superman, the government's taking him, and they're trying to hold him accountable for what he did. Like, yes, he saved the world, but now they're like, at what cost?
Right.
So that's definitely interesting.
Yeah. I really like that they're taking that approach, though. It's like you stated earlier, you know, just they're making it more realistic, more, you know, believable. And I mean, DC's really great at doing that. I mean, they've been doing it since the comic book era, you know.
Right.
The whole Batman versus Superman or v Superman, it's been a conflict within DC for, you know, as long as DC realized that, hey, you know, we got these two very lovable heroes,
They're top two.
and they're exactly the same, but
One's human.
one's human, and you know, Batman, for instance, he fights crime. Like his whole way of living is governed by his past. And
Yeah.
Superman's way of living is, the future. Superman wants to,
There you go.
believes in the good of people.
Mhm.
Batman, on the other hand, like, he's
Sees the
driven
bad.
by his past, his losing his parents, which is something we'll probably talk about later. I know there was a couple of things you wanted to, talk about that. But yeah, so they're two like iconic characters. It's been going on since, they realized that they had this amazing duo. And they held back a lot. They didn't want to cross, Superman and Batman. They didn't want to rush it. They wanted to take their time, and they wanted to give the audience, the readers, a feeling of like more believable. Like if these two were to meet, like how would their encounters be? And so that's something that I think Marvel lacks on. They just kind of like throw everyone in together, and they're like, oh, the shield government, we're recruiting all you, superhumans or gods and whatnot. It's just, feels very rushed. Just, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, with Superman, Batman thing, it's been one of those questions that we always
Yeah,
try to answer, like
the
who would
biggest,
win,
yeah,
or
who would Batman, survive?
who's better,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is like, what's interesting about Batman is that he's just like us. He's a human being. He's just really smart. He took things on his own accord and just ran with it. And yeah, I mean, he's been bathed in those magic waters and been rejuvenized a couple times, like 3 times now.
Raj Al Ghul.
Yeah. But Superman is this godlike creature that we would love to, I don't know, we see ourselves would be awesome to be, I guess. And, a lot of, when we grow up, I guess when you're young, you identify with Superman. You're like, oh man, that'd be freaking awesome to fly. And
yeah, I know I did. Yeah, definitely.
And then you take that versus Batman, which when you get a little bit older, you start saying, man, like, you start thinking about your troubles and thinking about all the stuff that you have to put up with. And then you think about a guy like Batman. Of course, real life versus comics. I know, I get it. But
I'm not going to put on a rubber suit to go fight crime. But
yeah. But the idea of somebody fighting that much adversity and, taking hell every night just to get this quote unquote justice, it's like, that's going to be way harder on Batman than it is for Superman. And plus the stories are more rich with Batman, obviously, versus Superman, because it's hard to find a villain, and that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, this movie makes sense because they're bringing it down to, our world and what would happen. And yes, definitely, it explains why Batman would not necessarily be aligned with Superman right from the get-go. Right. He'd have a problem with that because he sees him as a threat.
Yeah.
And so, kind of a little bit, some things I wanted to point out, because I kind of think they're covering a lot of bases. There's this one scene where Superman has this godlike presence, and he has people surrounding him. And
he's floating in the air with his...
Well, not yet. It's right before.
Okay.
He has a bunch of people just around him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
in the trailer.
It looks like they're the Day of the Dead in Mexico. That's what it looks like. Like, what they're trying to say is he's all around the world. And they appear to be worshiping him, And so you get this idea that he's this global figure. He's not just in the United States. He's everywhere.
I wonder how far into the movie that's. I wonder if that'll even you know how sometimes the trailers did
scenes and stuff.
But I wonder where in the movie that'll fall. Is it going to be the
very beginning or yeah, it's interesting.
Is it going to build up to that?
I like that though. I like that they were showing him in different parts of the world and because that's immediately what I saw. I saw, oh yeah, he's in Mexico. That's people are. That's the way they dress up, and of course.
Well, what are you talking about? This is how people dress up in San Antonio every day.
Right? Sugar skulls everywhere. But yeah, I like that idea that they're already painting him as this godlike figure.
Right.
And then it leads us to these armed men with Superman patches.
Oh, the last time, we brought that up,
Right. So
what did you hear about that? I really want to dive into that just because my take on it was if anyone's played the the video game Injustice. It's part of the DC multiverse where the Joker ends up killing Lois Lane. Superman goes bonkers, kills the Joker, and after that he's like, I'm not gonna let anyone else die on my watch. Like I guess like you were saying, he is like a godlike figure, so he's like, I'm gonna be the javelin, I'm judge, and and just really interesting on that, because as I was saying, in the video game, there are soldiers, humans that end up working for Superman. Now, if you go into the comics, if you jump into the comics, and the soldiers are, the Superman is working for the government, and he has, his soldiers, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which take are they going for? I'm not too sure. But what was what'd you get from that?
Well, it's definitely, humanity responding to Superman as a god. I kind of feel like maybe they take his side and say, you know what, he's a great hope or whatever, but I think he's a reluctant hero. I think that government's running some sort of tyranny, and they're using him as the face. Mm-hmm. The only reason I say that is because you have that statue of him in the movie. I mean,
right.
And then they put they spray paint on there something about what was the spray paint? Do you remember?
Is it something like "You're not a god" or
something like that? Yeah. So there's a couple of things that could be going on. I mean, just these are all ideas, but the idea that they're kind of using his face to kind of use him to submerge people.
Yeah.
Use him as
to be
like
this figure of
hope.
Yeah.
And he knows he's like, this is BS pretty much.
Oh, and then there's a scene in in Kansas,
mm-hmm.
What looks like Kansas, where he's getting a pep talk from his mom,
yes.
which
exactly.
relates to that. Yeah,
exactly.
I really love what she says. It's just
you don't have. Yeah, exactly.
It's like you don't owe us anything, basically.
Exactly. So that's very interesting. So all that I'm kind of thinking about is like, there has to be something going on with the government where he's conflicted. He's like, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
He's being used. There's kind of a ploy there.
Well, if you think about it, that's very similar to the comic or the animated, The Dark Knight Returns, where Superman is working for the government. They send him after Batman because Batman's like, he's come back, and he's like, a vigilante hurting these criminals, and to get the information he needs to
mm-hmm.
stop these criminals. So that is very interesting. How
right. It's interesting because Superman is being sent to take care of the situation.
Right. So I wonder if they're going to play that card. Although I did hear from an interview with Zack Snyder, the
mm-hmm.
director of the movie.
There you go.
He was saying that. One of the interviews, I forget the question that they asked him, but somewhere along the lines of like, since Frank Miller is, being their visual guide for the movie, they were asking like, is this gonna be a retelling of that story? And he's like, no, we're using concepts and ideas, but this is gonna be like a whole different universe, different multiverse of DC, multiverse,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the right way to go, because that way you have artistic freedom.
Yeah, even though there are some similarities,
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I do feel like it's this reluctant. Superman is reluctant to go along with whatever the government said. Like, you know what? We'll put troops that will help you in whatever facet you need.
Mm-hmm.
But there's scenes there where he's there and he sees the soldiers. He doesn't want them to be there, but they're pledging allegiance to Superman.
Right.
So,
and
you see my point. Like, I think that yes, human beings are responding to him and saying, you know what, we're on your side and we'll help you in whatever way you want us to. But Superman doesn't want him there. Like, they're doing something that he doesn't agree with, and I think they're using his face to control.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that can also be Lex Luthor's,
exactly,
playing a hand in all this.
He is, because he's talking to the Congresswoman in the very beginning in white,
mm-hmm.
and towards the end, they're seen talking. So obviously, he's up to something. He's manipulating the situation.
Right.
So jumping back into the trailer, we see Bruce Wayne. He was there. He sees the destruction. He sees General Zod, and they see all this mess that he's created. Obviously, we already talked about that, and we talked about why he feels invested to come back out of retirement. He's a lot older. His Batsuit looks awesome.
Yes, amazing.
It's not a rubber suit. It's like made out of cloth, and
it has
awesome,
that look.
man.
It looks like they're taking it back to the old school Batman,
Yeah.
TV series, and before the painted on or the rubber nipples and
Don't remind me, dude. Don't remind me.
who was that? Was that Clooney's Batman?
Yeah, Schumacher, man. Okay, so it's cool how they took that whole idea and explore all these different consequences, man. How everything's really thought out if you think about it. Now you know why Batman's invested. Initially, yes, I was critical about him jumping into the wave of smog and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But I guess you got to show that for people to
Right.
show that he's still in it, like he's still,
Yeah.
and it shows him pulling the tire,
Training
and he
and,
has to get back on top. So what's your take on this new Alfred?
I mean, as an actor, I really don't know if I've seen any of his movies.
Oh, Jeremy Irons? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's really big. He was really big in the 90s, I guess you could say.
What roles does he usually go for?
Classical kind of, Old English stuff and kings.
So, I
and
mean, yeah. He has very few parts in the trailer. I didn't really see much of him. But it looks awesome where he's like, talking, kind of giving, Bruce Wayne guidance on I think he's going to do a good job.
Yeah. I think he appears to be more of a, just by the pick of the actor that they got.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like this Alfred is definitely not as emotional as Michael Caine.
Okay.
This guy's more of like, how should I say? He's like more of a backbone to Batman,
Mhm.
where he's gonna be more, like more stern with him in a way.
Right,
Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah. But you got to understand, this is going to be Batman in his later years, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure by that time.
He's
It's
like,
just like
"Screw
parents
it."
parents with kids, the youngest one always gets away with more because by that time they're already just like fed up, like, okay, you're going to do it regardless. So,
Which is true. Batman's definitely darker. You said Frank Miller's on board with this, so I sense he's going to be more brutal, and is going to be maybe not as understanding, which makes sense maybe why he wants to take the fight automatically without even thinking twice to Superman, right?
Mhm,
Because doesn't Alfred talk to him and say, hey, he's not our enemy and all this stuff, but yet Batman's like reluctant, and he's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna, it tells me that he's really hard-headed, kind of like in the Frank Miller comic. He's in a way he's set in his ways.
Yeah.
In a way, he's more brutal and older, and he's like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, and you also got to think, if they do go with the story of, Superman's being controlled by the government, and they are sending him after Batman, well, of course, you're not just, he believes in what he's fighting for. He's fighting for a cause. Unlike Superman,
He's
Batman's one of
conflicted.
those people that is, yeah, he's going to take down a supervillain, but I mean, if someone's robbing a bank or stealing a car, he's also going to do that. Like Superman, I feel like overlooks the smaller stuff. He's just there for the big,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I
different
think that's
forms
gonna
of
be-
ideologies. Definitely, that's a really good point, man. I think in this movie, like we'll touch base and a little bit more on the Superman, that he's conflicted. Talk about that scene that you were talking about, that he was hovering over a flood victim, and he looks like a big god, but he just stares at the victim, and the victim is like reaching out for him, and he doesn't show. They don't show anything like he's saving her or anything. Like he's questioning it.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, and that's that's very. Wow.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting, especially after what I just said about there's for Batman, it's like it's no matter what size, no crime is too small for Batman.
There you go.
And Superman's more of like, am I really needed here? But there, I can hear someone yelling over here who's under attack by gunfire,
right?
Whatever. So
like, how do I choose, or who do I? And those are things that have never been brought up in the comics.
I really do hope they implement that more in the movie. That'd be a different take. Interesting.
Right.
Now let's talk about that more.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. First of all, you give me your.
I think he's going to be an amazing Lex Luthor.
Okay.
I think he's going to play. He's going to do justice to it. I think I could see him as a Lex Luthor.
And what makes you think that he has what it takes? Like, what about?
Just he seems like a very one of those people that would fit into that role.
Eccentric.
Yeah. It would fit into that role. Like, I could see him manipulating, the government. I could see him manipulating Batman and Superman, playing the cards against, both of them to try and, gain an upper hand in, whatever it is he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And usually, this comic book versions of Lex Luthor, he always ends up becoming president, or so
right.
he's looking to gain power, not Lex Luthor has never been
a small time or anything.
Yeah, he's never been like this. Had an amazing physique or anything. He's smart. He knows how to play his cards. And I want to say I read in a review somewhere that his take, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor is going to be, I guess he used to be like a small town thug or a thug, but he ends up,
just smart.
Realizing, that he's smarter than he is, so he ends up becoming the leader of a gang, and from there he goes into politics. And
interesting. Interesting.
If I'm correct, either that or that was one of his portrayals in a comic. So I really think that Jesse Eisenberg could pull that off.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm very cynical. Well,
what's your issue with Jesse Eisenberg?
Well, see, I love Zombieland.
Good movie.
Zombie
Good
World.
movie.
Sorry, Zombie World. I think he did great in that. I first saw him in The Squid and the Whale, and I thought he was fantastic in that too.
Never seen it.
He reminds me of a spazzy Woody Allen. I mean, Woody Allen's kind of spazzy as it is, but this guy takes it to another level. Like, he's very spazzy, he's very, very nerdy, and from those, of course, he did The Social Network and was all right with that. I don't know if he's a type of. Okay, so you're showing me the picture of him bald.
Yes. Does that not look like a Lex Luthor? Like, just
I don't know. He'd have to sell it, man.
I think he got to, man. He looks like he look. I don't know. For those of you that are wondering what picture we're looking at, I'll probably be posting this on my Instagram at Red Blue Blur, all uppercase, 1989. If y'all want to check that out later.
I mean, the visual is cool. I mean, I just have to see how he
it all plays
how
out
he
in
plays
action,
it.
Yeah.
He came out with this new movie, American Ultra.
Oh, okay, where he's like the stoner secret
right.
spy.
It looks pretty cool. It looks like he's trying something new. Like, he's not just this nerdy guy.
One thing I will say, I feel like all his characters, he has like the exact same tone.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. That's my problem, is that if he's going to be this exact same guy, basically Jesse Eisenberg, then we're just going to get this guy reading lines made for Lex Luthor. And that's what I don't want it to sound like.
Yeah.
He does act the same in every movie, in my opinion.
Well, in the trailer, what would you say? I mean, because in the trailer, it doesn't really show much, and what they do show, it does look like just typical Jesse.
It does. Yeah. I mean...
So I guess I could see that.
when he said the red capes are coming...
Yeah. That's towards the end of the trailer.
Yeah. The first time I heard it, I was like, that's the cheesiest line ever, and I hated it. I'm just like, oh,
but
no.
It works because it's a historical reference, as well as, hey, Superman or the Red Capes.
And this is another historical reference. Like, yeah, this is new. This is the future. I understand it. I was just playing. It's funny. I'm trying to make this point, but I was playing Batman 3, the Lego one,
Okay.
and they have this guy voicing Lex Luthor, and is so deep and menacing. It's so awesome.
So you want the Joker from Batman Legos?
Well,
you
Lex
want,
Luthor from Batman Legos. I mean, not necessarily exactly that, but if they had something that was of equal value, like to me, when Lex Luthor would talk, it was it was a bit menacing. It was a bit like, oh man, you don't want to mess with this guy because he's.
Yeah, he's always had, I guess, in the comics, or
Yeah.
not comics, because they don't talk in comics, but the animated series, like, yeah, he's always had this, like, very
Vibrato.
powerful, yeah.
Low register, like, oh, and then you don't want, like, it makes you feel like he's so smart that he already knows what you're thinking before you even get to the door.
I think Jesse has that.
You think so?
I do. I think.
I think he does have that, like, the idea of this character having that, but then he's gonna be like, okay, here's the scene. Let me give you the scene.
Okay, let's get it.
All right. So you walk in, you're gonna assassinate Lex Luthor, right?
Mhm.
And here, the first Lex Luthor that already knows that, you would come in, and Lex would just look at you, and you're like, piss yourself, and then he'd be like, he would change the conversation, make you kill yourself. All right, that's who Lex Luthor would like. He's like, we would be peons.
Or Smallville Lex Luthor. I don't know if
Okay,
y'all ever,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, okay.
See, he wasn't a big guy, and
Okay,
and he killed it. What's his name? Michael Rosenbaum.
yeah, there you go.
He did an
I think he
amazing
did
portrayal
good.
of
Yeah.
know, and it wasn't what you'd expect of what we would see in
Right.
the animated series. So I say give Jesse a chance, man. Give Jesse
No,
a,
this is what's gonna happen with Jesse. If you went to assassinate Jesse, and you're coming into, well, I'll say Lex Luthor, you're coming in, he's playing Lex Luthor, he'd know what's going on, but he drops the ball. He's like, oh, he starts spazzing out. That's how I feel.
Yeah, but you got to
You know what I mean?
understand he's also, a secret agent that gets activated. Oh, wrong movie. Wrong movie.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what he does with it. That's the number one thing that's worrying me. It's like, you're gonna have all this awesome stuff, all these different questions that we're trying to answer, and then Eisenberg's gonna come in and fuck it up. It sucks.
I don't see that.
And I love the
don't
guy.
see that.
I think
don't
he's
see it.
great. He's a playwright. He's smart. He does all these interesting movies, except for the Magic one. I wasn't really big into that one.
I saw. Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
Either.
So, I mean, I'm really rooting for him. I really hope that what we saw in the trailer didn't do justice to the performance, but I think, unfortunately, I'll go out and say it. I bet he's a bit overrated, and they took a chance, and we might see a different Luthor later on. I don't know.
It's a possibility.
I don't know.
You know what? That's one thing that I hate about movies when they do that. They if they're gonna do a sequel and they change jumping,
go for it.
Going off topic really quick, but the whole Iron Man, in part 1, is it where they had War Machine,
yeah,
and then they ended up changing, and I mean they both did, I think, good jobs on that portrayal, but I just
It's
it
kinda
throws
lame.
you off whenever they change actors like that.
Yeah, that's kind of lame. Now let's talk a little bit about some more stuff that happened in the trailer. They showed Mercy Graves. She's Luthor's bodyguard. She's seen walking and looks like she has collected a body, which, whoa, looks like it's Zod's body. A lot of people are talking about this. And,
A lot of speculations on
Right.
Zod's body right now going on.
what is Luthor going to do with it? My initial response when I first saw it was like, oh, awesome, he would make a great Bizarro.
Ah, interesting.
But I don't think Bizarro is such a big character. I think they're looking for something humongous, and
that's where they're going into
Doomsday. I think.
Doomsday. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
So,
But that'd be very interesting to do the whole Bizarro concept.
I
Just because
would've.
in the comics, Bizarro was created by Lex Luthor.
and he was a clone.
Yeah, didn't
For
come
Superman.
out right. Yeah.
Exactly, didn't come out right. But they said that the actor playing General Zod was talking about going to the bathroom. He had
The flippers or
Yeah,
fins. Yeah,
exactly.
He didn't go too much into details, so yeah.
so that tells me, they're doing Doomsday. Like, what else would it be?
I don't know. I mean, what I was thinking is, you know, the reason they're collecting Zod's body is that Lex is trying to figure out to see what Superman's weakness is. And if you see, you know, I don't want to jump ahead, but later on in the trailer where he's looking over some kryptonite, you know, so it's like maybe that's him finding out, okay, this is his weakness. And I mean, referring back to Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman has and it looks very similar to the costume, the, you know, kind of like robotic bat suit. But in the comic, that bat suit Batman has on has traces of kryptonite in it. So
he's maybe working in cahoots with the government and Lex Luthor. They're all kind of.
I think Lex Luthor may be playing the field, you know, trying to.
Which makes sense. You know, maniacal genius. Of course.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with the General Zod's body. That's very interesting. If they do Doomsday, though, that would be awesome as well.
That would set up the next movie, and so on.
I mean, it wouldn't follow the comics, but it'd be an interesting take. In the comics, you know, Doomsday was created on Krypton, and whenever they sent, you know, Clark Kent, baby Clark, or Superman, Kal-El, sent him home. They also, you know, Zod also released Doomsday, and he just ends up arriving later on.
The idea with Doomsday is that they're trying to make the ultimate war machine, and they kept just regenerating him and reanimating him until he actually survived. And once he survived, he just wreaked havoc. And so, hilarity ensues after that. So, he's a war machine, man. He's bred to kill. So, I think they're going to bring him only because, you know, it's going to sell more tickets.
Yeah,
you bring a Bizarro in, he's
kinda
more
like
interesting.
With this whole Batman and Superman thing, you know, the box office are going to, you know, it's fanboys and just everything.
Yeah, definitely. So now we're going into Robin's costume. The idea that maybe Batman retired after Jason Todd's death, but decided to come back with the whole Superman and Friends fiasco. So where was I going with it? What's your take on the whole Robin costume?
The appearance on the trailer?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, like when we were talking before last week. I think they're, you know, I don't think they're going to go too much into it, but it's going to, you know, along the terms, because if you see the costume, it does have writing graffiti on it with the Joker. You know, it looks like, you know, green letters, and, you know, it says "haha, joke's on you, Batman," or whatever. So obviously, it's going to have to do with, you know, the Joker killing Robin, because that does happen. And again, I like I'm saying, I watched it for 6 hours, so watched it 3 times in a row. Again, another reference, you know, to the Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, the animated movie. Where there's a scene where, you know, Robin's suit is in a case in the middle of the Batcave, and, you know, Alfred, you know, asks Batman, you know, like, you know, just brings up, like, you know, the Joker and, you know, the death of Robin.
Definitely is a reminder, but, you know, a lot of people are jumping on this conspiracy that it might be that the Joker might actually be Jason Todd. They're comparing the bullet wounds. They're comparing the J, the bottom left of his eye.
I heard that rumor. Yeah.
So I mean, if they did that, it'd be very interesting, in my opinion. It's a whole different take on the Joker. It brings more of a surreal idea behind Batman and his involvement with the Joker. Definitely be way more personal. And another reason why he won't kill the Joker. That's just one idea of many. I thought about it, and I thought, well, that would be really awesome if that was. But now, you know, looking at it, it's kind of like hard to picture how they would fit that in. I think it would be awesome, but I don't think they'll take that much of a risk.
Yeah. What's also interesting about the Robin costume, if they do, you know, take from the Frank Miller's adaptation, and there's actually a rumor going on right now that Jenna Malone is going to be playing the female Robin.
No way.
Yeah, they've got pictures of her on the set of Batman versus Superman.
No
of course, she said that
way.
she was just visiting, someone there on set. Because I believe she has worked with Zack Snyder before on different films. So she was saying, she's just visiting. But she was
Crazy.
donning the red hair. And in the Frank Miller adaptation, A Dark Knight Rises,
She has the red hair.
she has red hair. The Robin in that version is Carrie Kelly.
Oh, and so that's crazy because if that's the case, then this Jason Todd thing might be a possibility
Yeah.
because that's definitely coming from the Dark Knight Returns. Crazy.
Yeah.
So here's another idea: is that the grill from the teeth that might actually be from the Joker killing Jason Todd because he's the one that bashes his teeth in, and then the whole tattoos. That's Jason Todd. Maybe they're saying that Joker painted these tattoos on Jason Todd, or maybe Jason Todd did it so he could always remember what happened. Explains all the weird Joker tattoos, like the smile, the
On
damaged.
his forearm and his hand. Very interesting. I want very interesting artistic wise. I would love to see how he I've seen images where he has his forearm over his mouth to show the expression of like this crazy laugh, or crazy smile type thing.
So if they roped it in that way, oh man, I'd be so excited. I'm like, this makes sense. This is why the Joker has has this emotional tie to Batman so much.
And which is why Batman just can't straight out kill the Joker, because he also, he was the right.
He created him. Yeah. So, oh man, now that you say this about, see, I didn't know that at all.
Carrie Kelly, yeah.
Oh man, this tells me that maybe they are taking a bigger leap. Crazy.
Yes.
Oh man, that's nuts, man. I'm excited. I hope they do that. I really hope they do that. I really hope they take that leap, and that would make a very, very interesting, I guess, plot device or whatever. With that said, Wonder Woman looks great. We don't know much about her. All we know is that maybe she's a mediator between Batman and Superman that says, hey, look,
It's
Doomsday's
just a
there.
cameo appearance, I want to say your earlier podcast I had seen, and I kind of do agree with that. Maybe it's just the fact that, hey, they photos were leaked of her, so they're like, let's just go ahead and put her in.
Yeah, maybe that was the case. There are some scenes in the trailer that shows her just walking with like,
and her and Bruce kind of like have this moment where
exactly.
yeah.
So you're wondering if they're gonna explore that a little bit, because in the animated series they do
have a love interest. There is a love interest.
That's very interesting. So it would make sense because here in this universe, Superman, Lois Lane still have their thing going on, which we didn't see a lot of Lois Lane
in the trailer. Yeah, she's kind of.
So
I think she can't. I saw her once or something.
They're like, oh, okay, we'll forget about it. So yeah, we'll go more about these dudes. Kind of last couple of things we need to touch on. The S-Patch Army dudes. I do think they work for the government, and Lex is somehow in the mix, just like you said. There's a scene with him talking to the Congresswoman in white. I think we've already talked about that.
You're right.
So just to touch base on that, I think there's something fishy going on with that. I think Batman ends up fighting them. So somehow all this is going to conflict with him and Superman. Wonder Woman's going to come in and be a mediator somehow. And that's when Doomsday shows up.
The dawn of justice.
Exactly. And then when Doomsday shows up towards the end of the movie, it's like, oh, okay, they all have to
team up. See now, yeah, I didn't think of that earlier. Yeah, it would make sense if they play that route. Yeah.
So then there's that one underwater shot with Aquaman. Well, Aquaman's not shown, but it's an underwater shot.
Yeah. So yeah.
What else could it be?
And they've already talked about the Justice League movie coming out soon, and
yeah, exactly. So with that said, they show Bruce's parents get shot. In my opinion, we already know the origin story. Why show it again? Give me your take.
My take on why they're showing it again is because, this is a new generation. There's
already
people, it is. There's people who maybe don't know about, so they always have to do the retelling just so people that aren't on board. There's going to be people that have never read a comic or never, so they're going into this, and of course, I'm pretty sure they're doing their research, and hopefully they're listening to this podcast. So
Get out of the cave.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got to retell it, and it'd be an interesting take.
I guess the reason you would say the origins is if it was any different than the other Batmans. If he is a grittier Batman, take no prisoners thing, I guess.
But again, they have to show the whole death scene because, as I stated earlier,
brings that emotional.
Batman is driven by his past, so they got to show you why, he's running into the buildings collapsing, all
you
the
gotta
debris.
be reminded why.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they did it with Superman as well in the Man of Steel, where they retold it. The whole Superman, being sent from Krypton.
That was a given.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows, but they just have to retell it. It's a new adaptation, so they have to,
For them young folks.
For them young folks. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things left here. Desert Batman's awesome.
Oh yes, that actually reminded me of the Red Sun, the comic Red Sun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He has that same exact garb. I'm like, oh man, that's super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll leave it with this: the grapple scene imaged to Dark Knight cover. They do it in the movie where the lightning flashes and it looks like the Black Knight cover.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And I think Ben Affleck is gonna kill it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is the fact that there's interviews with. I'm sorry, jumping
go for it.
But there's interviews where they're asking, Ben Affleck on, is he going to be a part of the movies later on, and he's actually going to be directing the sequel, Batman standalone Batman. So he's going to be directing. We may see a new Batman coming up. Maybe Carrie Kelly, a female version. That'd be interesting.
Interesting.
A Batgirl version.
Yeah.
So, because we all know that they are going to do the Justice League movie. He's already said that he's producing. He didn't say if he was going to be in it, but, he said he's producing it, so more than likely not. So it's going to be a new Batman, and, who knows?
That's very interesting. Very interesting. We have a lot of things that are coming up. Still have to wait like a whole other year. I think they just finished. They just wrapped on Suicide Squad, so we'll be seeing that. Good things are happening in DC overall. Marvel has a good swing of things. Of course, they already have stories that are interesting with X-Men stories. Mm-hmm. Days of Future Past, I really enjoyed that. But DC is definitely taking a more realistic approach. They're definitely taking more chances, asking more questions about these demigods, you could say. I'm very interested in see in the future who else are they going to include as villains, and are they going to go deeper in the roster of DC Comics, or if they're going to keep it safe and just keep the superheroes that we know, like Green Lantern, Green Arrow, people like the Flash. Because DC has a rich amount of superheroes and supervillains that they could pull out. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting to see how far they're going to go. Because how are you going to bring Darkseid? Right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to this realistic approach, and bringing him in is already surreal. It's almost like Thanos.
Yeah.
So,
but then again, they're trying to take a realistic approach, but you got Superman coming from another planet, type of thing. So, I'm pretty sure they'll figure it out. I think DC is very, intelligent on the way they put things out.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if it all pans out.
Yeah,
if it doesn't. So if you guys are listening, thanks for actually hearing us banter and go on tangents.
Jabber on.
Jabber. And if you have any questions, just comment below, thumbs up, subscribe, tell us what you guys want to talk about. We'll definitely have more stuff here since Tony's a DC guy.
Yeah, definitely. Also, if you want to see any pictures of, Jenna Malone on the set of the Batman vs. Superman, again, check out my Instagram. Again, that's all caps, Red Blue Blur 1989.
There you go. Follow us on Twitter as well, PurePoint7. Just search that on Twitter and on Facebook, facebook.com/URUR. All words, no lowercase. Let us know. Have a good day. Good night. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.